And the saddest part of this is that the opposition is not coming in any way at all from the Labour Party.
Pathetic.
I thought that broadcast by Keir Starmer, protect the NHS, save lives, work from home, and it was just Boris Johnson with a slightly better haircut, but not using the word emergency. So we're in a funny old place in politics, but I think that roughly 100 Conservative members of Parliament tonight have stood up for liberty, have stood up for freedom, have stood up for decency. And I tell you what, if I had anything to do with it, they would all be given a jolly good lunch tomorrow and a glass of wine, and I'd say, well done.
Without having to show their vaccine passport. No, look, I agree.
No.
I agree with all of that, Nigel, but I guess where I probably disagree with you is that I don't get a sense that these rebels actually want Boris to go. What they want is him to lose the hysteria when it comes to COVID.
Well, I think if you speak to them in private, Dan, as I do, you'd be amazed, actually, how many of them are frankly mutinous. They were elected on a Conservative manifesto. They are led by a man who is not Conservative in any aspect of what he says or does. So I think it's rather deeper than perhaps you're realising. The odd thing is there are no obvious alternatives. There is the very corporate Rishi, the utterly untested Liz Truss, and at the moment, no other obvious names in the hat. But if we go back to 1975, Mrs. Thatcher was the most unlikely person to lead a Conservative revolution. And that is now what's needed. Because you see, Brexit interrupted what had become every party being a social democratic party. They were also, in 2010, when we had Miliband, Clegg and Cameron, we had 3 social democrat parties. You couldn't put a cigarette paper between them. I was the great disruptor in the course of that decade. And Brexit, it wasn't just Brexit, but Brexit was the issue. The Conservative Party briefly, reluctantly adopted it for their own survival. But now we're back to the old Etonian gang. Now we're back to the, sort of metro, liberal, London, greeny elite. And yet I do see some grassroots of hope. I think the 2019 intake contains among it some very different people, different backgrounds, different classes, different life experiences. And already they're showing they've got a bit of backbone. They've got a bit of courage. They're not just in politics, this lot, for climbing the greasy pole and for promotion. So I'm beginning to feel that there is the emergence of a political movement that actually wants radical change in terms of how we're run, how we're governed, and they will try to win that battle from within the Conservative Party. If they can't win that battle from within the Conservative Party, then you know something? Realignment is possible.